Okay, good morning, everybody. We start off this morning with a public hearing, and I will start with the public hearing chair's address. I'm Mark Pendergraft, and I'll be chairing this morning's public hearing. This is a public hearing for proposed Regional District of Okanagan's Milkmean Bylaw number 2800.49 2025. The proposed bylaw and related information, including written comments received to date, are available for review at the head table. At this public hearing, all persons wishing to speak will be given an opportunity to do so and are asked to commence the remarks by stating their name and address. Written comments may be submitted before closure of this public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak at this public hearing is asked to do one of the following. If you are participating in person, please step up to the microphone. And if you're participating by a computer, please click the raise hand button, which can be found in the participants panel on the right-hand side of your computer screen. This will indicate that you wish to speak. If you are participating by a phone, please press *3 on the phone's keypad. This will also indicate that you wish to speak. Having indicated that you wish to speak, you will then be placed in a queue until invited to speak. All speakers will be restricted to a time limit of 5 minutes until everyone who wishes to speak has had an opportunity to do so. Anyone wishing to speak a second time may do so by following the same protocol of stepping up to the microphone, selecting the raise hand button on your computer, or by pressing *3 on your phone's keypad. To submit written comments, please submit them prior to the close of this public hearing by emailing them to planning@rdos.bc.ca, or for those attending in person, by placing them at the head table. I will now ask Colin Martin, planner, to outline the specifics of the proposed bylaw. Please go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So this is the public hearing for RDOS file number C 2024.016 zone. So this proposal is for the property at 325 Road 20. It's currently designated as agriculture in the OCP, and agriculture 1 is the zoning designation. It's approximately 5.175 hectares, and it's entirely within the agricultural land reserve and not within the growth area. So the proposed development for this is to construct 10 agritourism accommodation, an agritourism accommodation building with 10 agritourism accommodation sleeping units on a parcel that is under 8 hectares. The relevant permitted uses for the current zoning is agriculture, which does include agritourism accommodation. However, currently it only allows 10 agritourism units over 8 hectares. And in this case, because the parcel is approximately 5 hectares, it only allows for 5 currently. So the proposed amendment would be to change the zoning from agriculture 1 to agriculture 1 site specific in order to allow the construction of 10 agritourism accommodation sleeping units as opposed to the 5 that are currently permitted. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. I will now declare this public hearing open and ask if there is anyone who wishes to speak to the proposed bylaws. I would ask for a second time. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the proposed bylaws, either in the room or online? For a third and final time, is there anyone who wishes to speak to the proposed bylaws or submit a written submission? Now would be the time to do that. I'm not seeing any hands online. Am I missing anybody, Adam? Okay, thank you. Seeing no hands or people coming to the microphone, I will now declare this public hearing closed at 9:05. Thank you, everybody, for your patience and attendance. And we will start the regular board meeting at 9:15 as advertised. So we've got time to fill your coffees or whatever the case is. If we could make our way back to our seats, we'll get started in just a moment. Okay, we will get started. I'll call the Regional District Okanagan-Smilkameen regular board meeting to order. We do have a proposed agenda in front of us. This is an opportunity to remove anything off the consent agenda and put it into the regular agenda if there's a desire to discuss it. I'm not seeing any raised hands on that, so looking for a motion first to approve the agenda. Moved, seconded. All in favor? Great, thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries, thanks. And then down to the consent agenda, corporate issues. Looking for a motion on that one. Mover, thank you. Seconded, thanks. All those in favor? Great. Any opposed? The motion carries. That brings us down to section B, which is the closed session. So we're looking to go in closed, that in accordance with section 90 A, C, and J of the Community Charter, the board closed the meeting to the public on the basis of personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality, labor relations, or other employee relations, and Section 20 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. So looking for a motion to go in camera. Moved, seconded, thank you. All those in favor? Great. Any opposed? Motion carries. So I'll give Adam a moment to get us in. Section C, which is Development Services. Building bylaw infractions. C1, CAO.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to seek direction from the Regional District Board regarding enforcement against the property owners of 117 Farley Lake Road, legally described as Lot 15, District Lot 144, in relation to expired building permit. And the administrative recommendation is that Section 302 notice on title pursuant and to Section 302 of the Local Government Act and Section 57 of the Community Charter made applicable to be filed against the title of land described as Lot 15, District Lot 1444, that certain works have been undertaken on the land contrary to the Regional District Okanagan-Smilkameen Building Bylaw number 2805, 2018, and staff's here to answer any questions or concerns you may have.
Okay. Generally, we ask at this time if the owner or applicant, or I should say agent for them, is in the room and would like to address the board on this. If you'd like to come forward, and we'll make some space for you here at the front. And in the center of the little console, if you could hit the button to turn the speaker on, please. Sure, go ahead, sir.
Hello, my name is David Brody. I'm joined here by my wife, Candace. We are the owners of the property at Farley Lake. We undertook the building of the property, and the budget kind of blew out on us a little bit. We ended up having to take on a significant amount of debt to get it to the stage it's at. We have a plan to pay off that debt, to incur more debt so that we can build the remainder of the permit. But the time allotted was not sufficient. When the notice for renewal came through on the permit, it only allowed for a 12 more months extension from the end of the permit. And it's not possible for us. We need another $50,000 to complete. At this point, the things that are preventing us from completion of the permit are the exterior finishings of the property and the septic. We have a working septic system in place. It was on the property when we bought it, and it was approved for the structure that was there, which was a 2-bedroom house. So there is a septic system in place. We were required to do an expansion of the septic system, which is the large part of the additional debt we would have to take on. So we have a plan. We're paying down the debt that we've incurred so far, and we want to complete the permit. We want to be in compliance.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll just ask the board if they have any questions for the individuals. Go ahead, Director Monteith.
Thank you, through the chair. Are you currently living in the building? Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Checking. Director Graham, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. Timeline-wise, you guys are prepared to take on more debt if a time extension was allocated to you?
We're about 5 years out from paying down the debt that we have. We are in payments on it, so an extension, I don't believe an extension of 5 years is realistic to ask for. So I'm just asking for as much leniency as can be granted.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Director Wiebe, online.
I believe this question would be for staff. If a
Well,
notice.
let's hold the questions for staff until we're dealing with the applicant. Oh. Any other questions for the applicants or the owners? Go ahead, Director Federico.
Yes, thank you, the chair. The structure you have now, how many bedrooms are in there? And then how many of those are using if your septic system is only designed for a 2-bedroom house?
So we moved in with our boys to the property. So we have 3 boys. We moved in there. It was a 2-bedroom house. Right now it is a 4-bedroom. Yeah, it's a 4-bedroom.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none. Oh, one more follow-up. Go ahead, Director Federico.
Yes, thank you. So then with that sort of increase, what kind of maintenance are you doing on your septic system just to, again, designed around the 2-bedroom with boys and just sort of a larger family in there? So just like, is it maintenance on that being pumped out annually, kind of what you're doing there just to keep that system healthy?
Any response there?
So after 2 years of living in the property, we had the septic tank pumped. I believe it was last year. I asked about the condition. When they looked at it, they said it seems to be working perfectly fine. Everything seems to be functioning well. We're very mindful of our septic system because we don't want to replace it right now because we can't afford it. So we're being very careful about what goes down the drain and maintaining it properly. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for the brief presentation, and we'll turn it back over to the board and we'll have staff come back up so we can, I'm sure there's some questions for them. So thank you. And I will go to Director Wiebe, who had a question for staff to start, and then Director Monteith. Go ahead, Director Wiebe.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. So just so that I'm clear, if we put a 302 on, is there a lengthy or significant process to remove it? Because it sounds like extending the permit may or may not be the best option, but I recognize we wouldn't want to put undue burden on this particular house, in my opinion. And I'm just wondering, sometimes a section goes on, but it's not a big deal to remove it later. So if that could be clarified, please.
I'll go to staff. Mr. Petrie, I believe.
So we had requested the owners take out a deficiency inspection permit, which would identify the deficient aspects of the house, and they would complete those. We do a final inspection. Once we complete a final inspection, approve it, we would then request that the notice on title be removed. So the notice on title serves as a safeguard for the regional district and any potential purchasers to let them know that some aspects wouldn't be up to code.
Okay, so it's a fairly straightforward process to
The
remove
simplest, yeah.
that 302. Okay, Director Monteith?
Thank you, through the chair. I guess I kind of feel like the report was incomplete for me because there's no photo of the home. When you say the external of the building isn't completed, but I don't know what it looks like. Is that just the front facing? Is that the whole building? Is that the decks? Like, I don't understand. I guess that's a large part of what I'm looking for in the board report, and that wasn't there. So it makes it really hard for me to make a good decision.
Is there a response? Staff?
No, I would agree. I would look for those photos to be in future reports for sure. That being said, we have trusted our inspector who's used his judgment to help with the recommendation, so.
Okay. Anything further, Director Monteith?
Yeah, thank you. So an exterior finish of a building, I've never seen that as a significant deficiency of a home. So is it just, like, I guess I really need to understand what is the deficiency of the exterior? If it's just plywood, I mean, or is it, like, what is it?
Go ahead, Staff.
So the building code requires 2 planes of protection. So technically your building wrap, so that'd be your Tyvek type products would be your first plane. And often your second plane is going to be your cladding, stucco, or something along those lines. So we're deficient on that aspect. We don't feel it's a huge health and safety concern, which is why we're recommending just a notice on title. If it was creating a large health and safety concern, we'd be seeking a court injunction.
Okay. Any further questions? Director Taylor?
Yeah, might have missed it here, but concur with the other director's comment. Just some of the supporting information for these 3 hasn't been at the level that I've seen in previous reports, and I really appreciate. When you say completion of bathrooms, so what? We have no bathrooms, or we have 1 bathroom or 2 bathrooms?
I'll go to Mr. Petrie.
Again, some of the information was deficient for us. We looked at all the aspects not being completed. The inspector did not complete the final inspection, so we don't have up-to-date photos. We have an expired permit. And because we haven't entered into the building to get those, we haven't taken photos. I don't have that information at this time. We have an incomplete permit that needs septic, bathrooms, some exterior finishes. We have potentially owners that haven't taken out a permit to allow us to come in and take that documented photos to bring it to the report. So we have an expired permit what we're bringing forward right now.
Okay.
And with that, these are the outstanding items that we saw within our records.
That helps.
All right.
Thank you.
Director Monteith?
Thank you. So I'd like to make a motion for alternative number 1, which is to put a notice on title and abandon further enforcement action.
Okay. I see that is moved, seconded. Thank you. Any discussion on that? Director Bloomfield?
Yeah, I just want to be clear what we're doing here. You said number 1, but place a notice on title. Yeah, number 1 is notice deficiency in the folio file. So not on title, but in the folio file.
Okay, so we're clear. That's just a note on the file. And no, those that seconded it are okay with that, understood it. Director Holmes?
What does that mean, a notice of deficiencies on the folio file?
I'll go to Mr. Petrie.
So we would send the owners a letter, and we'd also place that letter within the folio file. So if somebody did a property information search, if they're looking to purchase the property, they wouldn't get automatically flagged when, let's say, they did a title search. They'd actually have to come into the office. So it would take a little bit more effort on part of a potential purchaser who is doing their due diligence to figure out there were some deficiencies.
Okay, so it's in our files.
Yes, just not on the title.
Okay.
So.
Anything further? Director Gettens.
Thank you, the chair. I have a question about this because I understood if it's on the title, that can be removed when the work is complete. And, and then that also lets potential purchasers know that there's a deficiency. And that also removes the liability of us as the regional district by having it on the title. If it's in the folio and there's the extra step that somebody needs to come and get a file from the regional district to note that deficiency, then would we be as removed from liability if it's on the title? Like, I think that, but correct this assumption of mine if it's incorrect. We heard from the citizens, and I think we hear what their plan is, and they need some time. We put this on the title. That means that it can't be sold without the next person knowing that there's this deficiency that they're about to purchase. But that can all be removed when the work is done. And it doesn't mean between now and when the work is done, there'll be enforcement action. It's giving them the time, but ensuring that nobody else buys this from them without them fully realizing what they're purchasing. So I want to just correct that assumption. How easy it is to get it off the title, I guess.
I believe that is the correct assumption, but I'll go to the CAO or Mr. Petrie.
No, that was correct, yeah. So that's the typical process we would use. They would get some time to hopefully complete the work under a deficiency inspection permit. We'd complete that inspection, then we'd request that that be removed. Now, it does come with a cost, so I believe it's $1,000.
Okay.
So there is that added expense.
Then just sorry, Chair, just as a follow-up, then can Director, can Director Monteith just explain why the folio and not the title, please?
I'll go to Director Monteith.
Thank you, through the chair. I find the board report incomplete, so without really a good idea of what the deficiencies are. We've never seen an external finished as being part of a significant, incident. They're asking for more time. I feel like putting another cost of having to remove or go through the process of removing a deficiency on their title versus just putting it on the folio. To me, they're not significant issues. So if I was going to buy that property, I'd be looking at the septic system. I'd be looking at all those things anyway. So through due diligence, a buyer would find that. I don't think they're going to be selling the property anytime soon. I just feel like it's just a cost that the homeowner should avoid.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? Okay, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And those opposed? If I can get your hands up so I can make sure on that. Director Taylor, Director Holmes, Director McCordoff, Director Watt, Director Roberts, Director Gilbert, and Director Pendergraft. I don't know what that... Do I... Pendergraft, Roberts, and Gilbert. What number does that bring us to?
I have 7. Taylor, Holmes, McCordoff, Watt, Pendergraft. I have Taylor, Holmes, McCordoff, Watt, Pendergraft, Roberts, and Gilbert.
And did I miss anybody? Okay, I think
1,
that
2,
means
3,
it
4, 5, 6, 7.
would carry.
That would be carried.
Okay, motion carries. Down to C2, another building infraction, this time to the CAO.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to seek direction from the Regional District Board regarding enforcement against the property owners of 1906 Estate Place, legally described as Lot 5, District Lot 5, in relation to expired building permit. And the recommended motion is that Section 302 notice of title pursuant to Section 302 of the Local Government Act and Section 57 of the Community Charter made applicable to the Regional District by Section 302 of the Local Government Act be filed against the title of lands described as Lot 5, District Lot 4907, that certain works have been undertaken on the lands contrary to the Regional District Okanagan-Smilkameen Bylaw 2805-2018, and staff's here to answer any questions or concerns you may have.
Okay, again, I'd ask if the owners or an agent for those at 1906 Estate Place is here and want to present to the board or online. I'm not seeing any hands. Am I missing anybody, Adam? Okay, so direction on this one. I'm not sure which area this is in. F, that's Okay. Director Gettens.
Hi, actually, it's a good point, Chair. To be honest, it would be great if they could put the areas in these titles because some of our areas are pretty large and we're not always familiar with the street names, so that would be helpful as well. So I just want to quickly check in with staff. When I go on to eScribe, there's a link to 2 different reports, but the reports are the same. So is there any supplementary information or is that just like an admin thing? Just want to make sure we're not missing any extra information.
CAO or Mr. Petrie?
There should only be one report. That's the one that was presented to the board. I don't know why eScribe would have 2 reports.
Yeah, it's a link, sorry.
Oh, it's an attachment. Oh,
Yeah, it's an attachment to the exact same attachment. I just want to make sure the error was the duplication and not that it was supposed to attach to something different.
we've got staff looking right now.
Believe it's an administrative glitch.
Probably.
That's great. Thank you. I just was double checking. Yeah. I'll move the recommendation, please. The amend recommendation to put a 302 on title.
Okay, moved, seconded. Any discussion on this one? Director Federico?
Yes, thank you, Chair. When did the rulings come in about not having swimming pools, and does this house fit within that? If I'm reading that correct, it was because of a swimming pool?
I'll go to Director Gettens or maybe
sure.
staff. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Director
I understand
Gettens,
that
you can answer.
sorry. Yeah, I understand that they've got the permit for the pool. They just haven't closed off the permit. Unless that's incorrect.
Okay, I see the nodding. That is correct. So anything further on this? Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. Question, Director Monteith?
To the chair, doesn't the applicant get a chance to?
I'd asked and nobody spoke up. Next one is C3, civic address in Green Mountain Road, CAO.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to seek direction from the Regional District Board regarding enforcement against property owner of 2521 Green Mountain Road, legally described as Lot 4, District Lot 977S, in relation to an expired building permit. And the staff recommendation is that Section 302 notice on title pursuant to Section 302 of the Local Government Act and Section 57 of the Community Charter made applicable to the Regional District by Section 302 of the Local Government Act be filed against the title of land described as Lot 4, District Lot 977S, that certain works have been undertaken on the lands contrary to the Regional District of Okanagan Bylaw 2805, and that injunctive action be commenced against the property owners if, after May 3rd, 2025, the property owner is not in compliance with the Regional District of Okanagan Building Bylaw 2805, 2018, and staff's here to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. And again, I would ask if the owner or their agent for 2521 Green Mountain Road is in and would like to address the board, please step forward, and you're welcome to give a brief presentation. If you just hit that center button and make sure the little green light is on, you're free to go.
I would like to thank you all for listening to me today. I bought this property probably back in 2013, I want to say. The original permit was open in 06, so I know it's been open for a long time. The inspector wanted for the completion was a complete bathroom, the drywall, and railings. I'm in the process now of almost completing that drywall. Everything else has been completed. I just need a little more time. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for the applicant, Director Monteith?
Thank you. Through the chair, how much more time do you need to complete the drywall?
I would say probably within a month.
Okay. Any other questions? Not seeing any. Thank you, sir, for the brief presentation. We'll get staff to come back up, and if there's any questions from the board for staff, and then we'll seek a direction here. Director Monteith, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair. Staff, could you remind me, Mark, could you remind me how much time happens, the process here, if we went with the administrative recommendation?
So if we did seek out a court injunction, so first we register a notice on title in case it gets sold. The second aspect does take some time. We'd have to do a conflict check, and it can take up to 3 years to actually get this in front of a judge. That being said, it sounds like they're making some progress, so.
That would be the question I have. If they're moving forward and cooperating, would you put the notice on title immediately or
The notice
given
on,
that short period of time they request?
so the notice on title goes on right away, but the file, we can sometimes delay sending that to our lawyers.
Okay. Director Monteith?
And to follow up, there's a cost to the homeowner though to remove the title, right? The notice on title?
Yes, so they're gonna have to take out a new permit no matter what. This is expired, it's been going on for a long time. So it could be done through a deficiency inspection permit, which would hopefully capture those last few items that they have to complete.
Okay. Follow up or?
Yeah, so
further?
I'd like to make the administrative recommendation, but I'd like to put a caveat of a time frame. So I'm thinking September, like give him the summer to be able to complete what he needs to do before anything happens. So I guess I just don't know how to word it. Like I really want to give him some time. He's working towards compliance. Looking for some assistance here.
Okay, so you're wanting the time even before the 302 is put on title.
I just have a hard time with the property owner having
Yeah,
to pay
just-
to have something removed when they're already working towards compliance. So if we can like give him some time and he's working towards compliance, you'd have to get another building permit anyways to continue. So he'd already be working with staff. So why would we charge him $1,000 to do something that he's already doing on top of his building permit?
I get that. I'm just not sure if the best way is to put a date to that or whether it should just be deferred until September. But I'm going to go to the CAO or Ms. McCram, either or.
I was just suggesting that a possibility is to defer this for 30 or 60 days or.
And then go from there. Okay, I'll go to Director Monteith for.
Yeah, so I'd make a motion to defer this application, or I guess this. What do
This
you call it?
item.
Okay, sorry, this item, until September of 2025.
Okay. Seconder for that? Seconded. It's on the floor. Any discussion? Director Gettens.
Thank you, the chair. It's not so much a discussion about this. I support what director wants to do here. I just wanted to say, you know, when we say that there's a cost to removing something off the title and we don't want to add that cost to the homeowner, the flip side is that then the taxpayer pays for it. So I just wanted to put that out there because I know it's hard when people are trying to make ends meet and get things done. This has been going on for a while, this work, and it's been extended. And it's great to hear that it's almost complete. So I am supportive of this. But I just want to put that out there that, you know, adding an extra cost to the homeowner is part of the process of not fulfilling the permit. And that cost has to be borne by somebody like the staff going out. And that's what the cost of the permits go towards. So I'm just putting out that maybe unpopular opinion, but that is the way it works.
Okay, Director Watt?
Thank you, Chair. Just to add to Director Getten's comments, I think it's also, if we're made aware of an issue, I think it's our responsibility through due diligence to make sure that the public is safe by having this on title. I just think it's something we need to be doing.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Not seeing any. Oh, Director Roberts, go ahead.
Through the chair, and it's a question for staff. How do you, or is there a process in regards to verification? So for instance, when the homeowner is got so close to completing something, but there's been a little bit of there's a lag time and, you know, we don't have pictures except for the last one. Is there a way of, do you get permission from the homeowner to have them take photos, or is there a way of kind of updating information into the folio to show that there's been progress? Thank you.
Go to staff.
So we would request that an inspection be completed by our inspectors. We can accept photos on certain aspects, more minor, aspects that could be verified through a photo, but in general, on a project like this, we'd want to do a final walkthrough. There's just a lot of issues or a lot of compliance items that we'd need to look at.
Okay, follow up, Director Roberts.
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, I'm not meaning the final one. Like, I know we have to have the building permit. I wonder if there's something that in the middle where all of a sudden you've got a lag time here. You can ask the homeowner, or does the homeowner can ask the RDOS to come in and do a cursory inspection just to prove, hey, I'm doing this. It's just going to take me a little bit longer. Apologies, whatever.
Staff?
We do request that we could go out and do pre-inspections. Let's say we have an old permit, we got to get the details straightened out so we get a nice clear workflow. So sometimes we will request if we can do a pre-inspection, we create the work list for them. And that just keeps the communication clear on both sides. We know what we need, they know what they need to do. And then they could submit photos. So it is a working process. It's not exactly black and white sometimes, but we try to make it as consistent as possible. But our required inspections are mandated by the bylaw. So those are the times you absolutely have to have us out. The other times it's sometimes requested, or we may ask them, can we have a look at that? Can you call us out at that point just to take a peek? And in this situation, we could work something out where we would get some progress, let's say monthly.
Okay. Anything further? Not seeing any hands, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. Down to Development Services, D1, CAO.
Thank you. An application has been submitted to the Agricultural Land Commission under Section 20 of the Agricultural Land Commission Act and referred to the regional district in order to follow for the accessory building to be operated as a non-farm use within the agricultural land reserve. In support of this proposal, the applicant has stated that the washroom facilities used for patrons of the property have been in past relied on the restrooms and the cafe in adjoining property. The recommended motion is that the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen Board authorize the application to allow a washroom facility as a non-farm use on the parcel located at 317 Linden Avenue to proceed to the Agricultural Land Commission, and staff's here to answer your questions.
Okay, I'll go to Director Monteith. Direction?
Thank you. I'd like to make the administrative recommendation.
Okay, moved, seconded. Thank you. Any discussion on this? Not seeing any hands. This one is a corporate vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. D2, a temporary use permit in Area E, CAO.
Chair, I have to recuse on this one, I'm afraid.
Okay.
I was involved in the sale of the property.
All right, thank you for that, Director Bloomfield. We'll give you a second to exit before I go to Director Federico on this one. Still safer to recuse.
I'll move the administrative recommendation.
Okay, moved, seconded, thank you. Any discussion on this one? Director Gettens.
Thanks. Not so much a discussion, but just a confirmation. Maybe Director Federico can help me out. There's no feedback for this one?
Not that I'm aware of. I didn't think, I'll go to staff. No feedback at this stage. Okay, thank you. Anything further, Director Monteith?
Thank you, through the chair. I think Director Gettens is picking up on something. Is this not something that would just be approved under the delegation bylaw? Why would it come to us if there's no feedback?
Staff.
So through the chair, so my understanding it's the first time they've applied for a temporary use permit, so we don't have delegation for initial vacation rental operations.
Yeah, it's only for the renewals, correct? Okay. Not seeing any other hands. This is a rural vote. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. And if someone could just let Director Bloomfield know that he's welcome back in the room here. Item D3, which is in Area C, CAO.
Thank you. This application is seeking to amend the zoning of the subject property in order to allow for 10 agritourism accommodation sleeping units. And the administrative recommendation is that the Okanagan Valley Zoning Amendment Bylaw 2800.49, 2025 be read a third time, and staff's here to answer questions.
Okay, I'm going to go to Director Chahal for direction on this.
I'd like to move the administrative recommendation.
Okay, you're moving it. It's seconded. It's on the floor. Any discussion? Director Taylor, go ahead.
Yeah, strongly support ag tourism. I just struggle with this one a bit where we're not putting anything on the adjoining title. I'm still struggling to understand that because to me, they don't really seem like adjoining properties. They're on opposite sides of Highway 97. And at present, our zoning seems to only provide for 5 units. And we're giving the guy 10. I just don't see why we wouldn't put the covenant on the other property or change the zoning, change what's permitted under the zoning. So, yeah. I'd just like your comments on that, both staff and the director.
Director, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go first. I believe they were willing to do it from something I read on a document by the representative, but it wasn't put on, put in the document by staff. If you guys could comment.
Go to staff.
Through the chair, I believe it was put on as an alternative option. That being said, I believe that our recommendation comes just more from the merit of it being that property solely looked at on its own. So, yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Director Roberts, go ahead.
Thank you, the chair. So to back up Director Taylor's comments, so does that state that if they sold that other piece of, we're looking at it in regards to the tenants together, and that this makes sense. But then now all of a sudden, they sell one half. Now you've got this large facility on a smaller piece. I'm assuming that that's part of the concern. Why wouldn't we have something that says, because this is in relationship to understanding that it's tied to this piece of property? Because we run into the same thing in regards to footprint with agricultural land now, where you can accumulate the footprint from multiple properties, then put it on one. But then if you sell off those properties, you end up with a large, like I've got in Area G, places where a 2-hectare piece is completely covered in concrete and buildings. And if those other properties that are leased and unsold that gave the footprint for that are gone, I'm then stuck with a large industrial complex that's not connected to agricultural land. So I'm wondering if there's been any thought in regards to that. Thank you.
Staff?
Well, so through the chair, I would argue that pretty much informed our assessment of this application, because we do recognize that farm holdings do change over time. Parcels are sold, parcels are leased, that changes. And so we appreciate what the applicant said in this instance, that they have an adjacent parcel nearby that they're willing to quote unquote transfer development rights from. But from our perspective, we chose to look at it solely in the context of the subject parcel, recognizing that that other parcel they own may change or that may be added to, or, you know, things. And if it was sold, then future property owners might ask for that restriction to be removed. So rather than put ourselves in that situation, it's simply look at it on the basis of the merits of the current subject parcel, and does this make sense? And so that's what informed our recommendation to the board.
Okay, anything further? Director Taylor?
So would, for instance, the current owner be able to put a 5-unit agritourism place on the other property, or ask for a 10-unit agritourism unit on the other property?
Staff?
So through the chair, so my understanding of the zoning and that other parcel, they would be entitled to 5 units as right. But if they wanted to put additional units above and beyond that, they would have to come back to the board through a rezoning application.
Okay. Director Holmes?
I mean, I guess the concern is that it remains a supplementary income for the farmers and not undermine the farming aspect of it. So for me, to me, that's the principle of only allowing 5, is that to ensure that it is a supplementary income as opposed to the primary use for the property. So for me, it begs the question, okay, so how many units, if a 10-unit accommodation still ensures that it remains a supplementary income initiative and doesn't become the primary purpose of that property, what is that magic number then, if 10 is okay for this property?
Not sure there's an answer for that, so it's a good question, though. Makes you wonder. Anything further? Discussion, questions, follow-up?
Just to follow up then, to ask it a different way then, if 10 is okay for this property, then why don't we just change our bylaws to allow 10? If we're all comfortable with 10 on a typical farm? Or is there something special about this property that allows 10 where other farms should only have 5?
Go to staff.
So through the chair, so historically, yes, I mean, staff do pay attention to approvals that the board grants in relation to the bylaw. And if we do see a trend emerging where the board supports something that's not currently within the bylaw, then we would at some point bring forward a proposal to change the bylaw. I'm just not sure in this case if one application would warrant that discussion. But I mean, if the board wants to have that discussion, we can certainly bring forward options for you.
Okay. Director Bloomfield.
Thank you. And through the chair, and as a municipal director, I'm just observing here, but I think I was going to save this for business arising, but because of the nature of the application, I think that Director Holmes and myself, we were on an agricultural tour yesterday, and this was a major point of discussion on that agricultural tour. I was there with Director Gilbert as well, and not sure whoever else was, Director Barkwell. And obviously it's a concern amongst the farmers about this disparity between zoning of a regional district or a municipality and the differences between that and the regulations within the ALC. And there was some talk about wanting to make sure that those regulations are aligned, and so that it removes confusion from a property owner when they're dealing with two different sets of administrations. And so I think that's, as Director Holmes has just mentioned, why not change the bylaw to reflect, what is essentially within the ALC regulations, and that was essentially part of the discussion that we had yesterday. I think that's fair to say. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, I call the question. This one is rural vote. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. Oh, you were opposed? One opposed. Director Roberts opposed. Still motion carries. Down to E, Finance, Area H, Community Facility Reserve, CAO.
Thank you. The Area H Community Facility Capital Reserve was established for financing capital projects within Electoral Area H and is funded from the monies received from the Vermilion Forks Community Forest Corporation. The recommended staff motion is that bylaw 3105/2025 be authorized an expenditure of $500,000 for the Area H Community Facility Capital Reserve to contribute to the construction of the Princeton Fire Hall and be given a first, second, and third reading and be adopted. The CFO is here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, I'll go to Director Coyne. Direction on this one.
I'd like to make the administrative recommendation, please.
Okay, you're moving it. Is there seconded? It's on the floor. Any discussion? Not seeing any hands. We'll call the question. Corporate, all those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. Down to Legislative Services, F1, Vintage Views and Lakeshore Waterworks, Utilities Assent Vote, Election Officer Appointments, CAO.
Thank you. To update the election officers for the Vintage Views and Lakeshore Assent voting process, we have a recommended motion from staff, and that is that Jillian Cram be appointed as the Chief Election Officer and Diane Vikovich and Mark O'Coin be appointed as Deputy Chief Election Officers for the Vintage Views Waterworks System and the Lakeshore Waterworks System Assent voting opportunities.
Direction on this? Moving it? Moved, seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? Director Taylor?
If I could, this touches on election. I'd just like to make a comment.
Sure.
We have had some concerns about the timing of this. And I would just, not for the benefit of the board so much as people that may be listening to this board meeting, I'd just like to clarify that there really isn't access to any more information. And although residents are in a difficult spot of having to vote on something for which there's no certain pathway either way, I think really the vote that they're being asked to vote on is, do you want the future to be, your future system to be administered by the current owner or by the RDOS? And all the other information about assessments and what might or may not be necessary, in my perspective, is somewhat superfluous. The key thing is, who do you want administering and managing that thing? So yeah, that's my pitch that I wanted residents to be aware of.
All right. Any other discussion on this? Seeing no hands, again, corporate, all those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. Down to CAO reports. CAO.
A few things. There's an automatic G2, as I stated earlier, a few meetings ago regarding strategic priorities board, but I want to just talk about a win that the regional district had. We received an email yesterday from ICBC, and I want to thank them. We got confirmation. I had a verbal confirmation, but now I have a written confirmation that we've got a $3,000 grant each for 5 different speed safety signs throughout the regional district, being OK Falls is one of them, West Bench, Naramata, the Costin area also has one, and there is one more that I'm remiss about. Well, there's a 5th one. So, oh yes, Cleveland. Yes, that's all. That's what started it. So it was the very first one. So I want to thank them, and that's something that we're going to be tapping in more and more. If there's any safety issues that affect the highways in your area, please let me know. And we now have a lifeline directly to look for grants.
Okay, good to know.
The other area here is strategic priorities. One of the things that this organization needs to be better at, and I need to be better at, is celebrating victories. And from going forward, anytime that we finish any one of the strategic priorities of yours, we want you to be aware of it. Start off with the number that we started off with, how many we finished between one meeting and another, and how many are left. After that, and I've got Matt here, he's in charge of this. He's doing an awesome job that other regional districts are going to be, I think, emulating us. After that, the next step is I want to talk about this section here would be the equivalent of a notice of motion. And I do have equivalent of a notice of motion for a major project that I need to look at. But first of all, I'll bring this over to Matt to take over.
Good morning. Thank you. Just wanted to give a brief update. I was here a few weeks ago presenting a workshop on the strategic progress tracker. Since that meeting, we've had 5 actions completed. So I just wanted to review that, and we want to be able to do this on a regular basis. These are actions that would have started either in 2024 and then have now completed, or were started in 2025 and are marked as complete. So staff are being conscious of updating actions regularly with progress. And those percentages are tracked, and we'll come back to the board and celebrate the wins as we complete them. So those 5 projects are the Community Emergency Preparedness Fund Disaster Risk Reduction Grant for Tiger Dam trailers, the West Bench Fire Protection Agreement with the City of Penticton, the Missoula Lake System, the Raw Water Sample Line Installation, the Incorporation Referendum with Okanagan Falls, and the Okanagan Falls Water Office relocation of water staff, utility staff. So those actions are now marked as complete.
Okay, and before we go, I'd like to thank Matt for the link and the well-written how to get it on our computers. It worked, and I'm happy that it's there. So I hope it worked for everybody else. So I do have it really accessible now instead of how in the world do I get there? So thanks for that. Anything further, CAO?
Yes, so with the yes vote for the Okanagan District of Okanagan Falls coming forward, one of the suggestions that came from the director is that the possibility of looking at an electoral area boundary study, which would mean that that would be a material increase in the workflow, the work requirement. We're in the process of determining how many hours and what departments would be affected. And if the board at this stage states that you're interested in this, at the next meeting, we'll come back and say, if you want this added, here's a number of choices that you want to take off and move them to 2026. A project will never be eliminated completely. It will always be moved to the next year.
Okay. So you're asking for direction from the board on that?
I'm asking for direction. Do we need to come back at the next meeting with projects that we need to take off and to add this on? Does the board even want to consider the boundary study?
Okay, seeing lots of hands here. I'll go to Director Taylor first, and then I'll get the others.
Can I just clarify, this is a boundary study for essentially resulting from the incorporation of Okanagan Falls?
CAO?
So that's what started, but the recommendation is to look at all of the boundaries within the regional district.
Okay, I'll go to go ahead first, follow up.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to go back. I did sit in on discussions where we discussed this as regards cutting OK Falls out of Area D. And my recollection was that provincial staff and consultants indicated that let's do this and then let's let Area D sit and just see how that works. Recognizing that there's still a population there that's comparable to several of our other areas and certainly has comparable size. So I'm not in a hurry to change that direction.
Okay. Director Monteith?
Thank you, through the chair. Exactly what I recall. There has been conversations about this being part of the process going back to 2015. And yeah, so I agree with Director Taylor that this is something that's been sort of kind of working through the process for years. So yeah.
Okay, Director Roberts.
So to not do the next step, like the province would be doing that, right? They are the ones that would be looking at the Area D.
Okay, Director Roberts and then Federico. You want to interrupt first, CAO?
Sure. Just, this wouldn't be just for Area D. It would be looking at the whole.
All of them, yeah. Okay, Director Roberts.
Thank you, and through the chair. And for clarity, I was the director. And again, nothing scary. I was looking more at, since we're looking at a governance and this happened at the same time, I just see it as a natural part of the process because, for instance, I have Grand Oro Road that only services that they get is all through Area I. So, and they're on Area I's water side. My side, I know that Area I's had to deal with properties on the little spur piece of White Lake Road on the 3A side. There, I'm just using those as examples. There's just certain things in regards to where the services are, what's actually happening, what things are alike. Wouldn't this just be an appropriate time? And again, my question is, is this part of a sequential process in regards to the governance part? It wasn't specifically in regards to that. It's just that, does this all kind of fall into the same place? And what kind of triggered it, of course, is my curbside pickup stuff. I've got curbside connected to the very end of a road that just kind of sits on a mountain part that has no access to Area G except for its through Area I. So, thank you.
Director Federico?
Thank you. Yeah, my question kind of took a detour on that, but so then, Jim, how do we decide what gets taken off the list? Like, is that a board decision and we all just throw in a pot what we think should be taken off of there? Or does staff deliberate? Like, how do we then adjust things?
I think they'll come back with recommendations, but go to CAO.
I will come back with recommendations. Staff cannot cut any projects that you've authorized. It's just like the yearly budget. You have total power over it. We can come back with recommendations, but not actually do it unilaterally.
Follow or back to Director Roberts.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. And this is what I brought up previously in regards to my suggestion. around the zoning hours that I have allocated in Area G for 2025, which is over 1,000. And I'm seeing that the governance things, these other stuff, I think should happen ahead of that. So I could see moving that to like 2026 while all these other things flesh out. It just seems like there's a lot of stuff that's going to be moving in ripple effects in regards to changes and governance models that maybe I can move that 1,000 over a year. It was just an idea and a thought. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm kind of hearing sort of mixed thoughts on this one. Do we need to make an official motion on this, CAO?
It sounds, I will be bringing it back at the next meeting, and you can make an official recommendation at that time. So you don't have to have the motion today.
Okay.
If you like this process, this is how I will be doing it in the future. If any one of you come to me, this is how I expect it to go through.
Okay. Was there a follow-up, Director Taylor?
Yeah, just, I appreciate, I've got a similar area, Upper Carmi, and I got to go through Penticton to get there. I think maybe other areas have it as well as both ours. I think, though, that the residents take quite a bit of ownership in the area they're attached to, more than we might think. And I've certainly experienced that in the incorporation with some people living on one side of the river. And although they've clearly been outside of the footprint for a year and a half, they still view that they're part of that area. And I think if we're going to change that, it's going to take a lot of hours of consultation, to change our electoral areas.
Okay. Anything further, CAO? All right. Moving on, Chair's report. I would just report that last week, the Vice Chair and myself, and I believe it was Director Gettins and Director Taylor, met with our MLAs in regards to some of these water systems that we're taking on, and had a decent discussion on that. So I thought that was a worthwhile discussion. I'm not sure where we'll end up with all that, but it was interesting. Director's motions. Any director's motions to Director Taylor?
Yeah, I'd like to put a notice of motion out there, but I'd also like to inquire whether the board would consider debating it today. So Okanagan Falls will incorporate, subject to government working through its processes, will incorporate as a district municipality. But that could take, we're hearing it could occur this fall, could occur the winter, could occur probably by sometime this time next year. So I would like the board's support in the form of a letter requesting that the minister target completion of an order in council that sets out letters patent for Okanagan Falls during the current spring session that ends May 29th.
Okay,
So that's my motion.
Notice of motion,
And
yeah.
if I could get a seconder, I'll.
What year?
2025. So it doesn't have to go to Parliament. It just needs cabinet. It's an order in council, so it comes from cabinet, goes to the lieutenant governor. And it's asking the minister to target, not, we got to have this done. I'm open to wordsmithing on the kind of language we use, but I really feel that it's important that the provincial government staff understand that it's a priority to get this done in a timely manner. Now that the vote has been done, we don't want to go for another 6-12 months in this current limbo, and potentially they're bringing on a corporate officer, and we're starting to talk about transfer of services, and the people of Okanagan Falls don't have a direct input to that process.
Okay, so in order to deal with that today, we would need a motion to deal with it today. If you want to move that, I'm assuming you do. So
Yes,
you'll
I'll
make
move
that
that.
motion. Is there a seconder for dealing with that today? It's on the floor. Any discussion on it? Director Bush?
Yes, so I don't understand what all this means. Is would elections align with our next year and a half from now, or how would that work?
I'll go to Director Taylor.
In theory, if we get our letters patent, which we need this order in council, or which comes from this order in council, we need that in order to have the election. And if we have that, we could conceivably have the election sometime in the summer or September.
So
at one point, there was even a timeline that we could have the election this spring. And that has been discussed between RDOS staff and the provincial staff. So the provincial staff, this is not, they're aware that we're wanting to go quickly.
So it wouldn't align with our fall elections in 2026. It would be earlier, is what this was.
Yeah, and we get it. So we would hopefully get 12 to 15 months term in first, in which to bring over bylaws, services, et cetera.
Okay, a follow-up, Director Bush?
Well, it just seems like we'd be spending a lot more money, and that's all I'm thinking of.
Okay. Director Monteith?
Thank you. Director Taylor, I absolutely hear what you're saying. I guess I'm curious to why the province is suggesting a longer timeframe.
CAO, do you have any?
I would suggest that that's an in-camera discussion, but we can give you a update at that point.
Okay. Not for public comment. Anything further discussion-wise? Director Monteith?
Thank you. I think that's sort of an important part of the conversation to understand the province's logic.
Director Bloomfield, and then McCordoff.
Thank you, through the chair. I mean, the motion is just for a letter asking for the action from the provincial government, and I guess the province might be moved to do a written reply on their position to the board, at which time we'd have something to go into a closed meeting to discuss. Because right now we don't even know what we're discussing. I mean, we know what we're discussing, but we don't have any information surrounding it. So, I mean, who knows what the response might be from the provincial government? We don't know. So until we get a response on their position, we don't have very much to talk about, I don't think.
At this stage, it's more of a guess, I think, but I'll go to the CAO.
Without being specific, what I can say is that this will be the first new municipality that is going through a new type of letters patent. And unfortunately, if it happened earlier, it would be faster. The director and I did have a meeting with the two provincial individuals that were talking about the letters patent. And I explained to them that it would be a hardship on us as a regional district, and also for the new municipality if it takes longer than it should. There's, for instance, what happened 2 years ago when we took over the water treatment plant, the cemetery, and the light services for OK Falls. Because of what the time frame that it happened, we couldn't tax because BC Assessment didn't have the information. So the next year we had to tax double. And I brought that up to them because that could happen to this new municipality. And this municipality that was told your tax increase is not going to be any more than X amount, all of a sudden they're paying double. So that's something also could be added to the letter. And the director was there to hear this and supported my issues.
Okay, Director Taylor, and then
I appreciate the mayor's comments. I think we're doing our due diligence by communicating to the minister that there is an interest in moving this along in a timely fashion. At the moment, their staff will take as long as required to do what they feel is necessary. And I think this is just pulling whatever levers we have to say that we'd like them to do it as quickly as possible.
Okay, Director McCordoff.
Yes, thank you. I totally agree that you got to get this letter on the table if that's what you want. From my experience, it could take years. And I don't think, I think considering all of the other things that are going on in the country and in the province right now, that you would be very lucky to get a letter back within 6 months. However, I mean, you have to start somewhere. So I totally agree, but make sure you've got the letter well written and with all the points in it first before you send it, because otherwise you'll get questions back. So good luck.
CAO or Ms. Cram?
I'd like to point out that this is a notice of motion with a request to be considered today, and the board has not yet voted on whether to consider it today.
That's what the motion that's been made is to consider it today. We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves in discussing the letter. But I'm going to call the question on dealing with it today. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Okay. Now there needs to be the full motion on sending the letter, and I'm assuming Director Taylor wants to make that. There's seconded. So any further discussion on that, Director Holmes? No. No, we've gone through the ring. Unless there's something new to add, I'm not seeing any hands. I will call the question on that. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. Any other directors' motions? Not seeing any. Board members' verbal updates. Anything to report from your areas? Director Taylor.
I do.
Go for it.
Area D is working hard to shorten your list. So, yeah, I just want to acknowledge that our referendum went through. It's been a long haul this round. It's been a long time for the community. I think we have a direction now, or we have an opportunity to define our direction, and time to move forward. So thank you for all of your support over the years. Appreciate it very much. Thank you, including today.
Okay. Yeah, good that that's got done. Director Holmes had his hand up first before Director Bartlett. Go for it, Director Holmes.
So yeah, as Director Bloomfield mentioned yesterday, some of us were on this agricultural tour yesterday, which was organized by something called the Cross Commodity Leadership Support Group, which is basically a partnership of all the growers associations we have in BC. So all the different fruit growers, grape growers, whatever. And they organized this tour of 4 local government officials and farmers were all together, and also representatives from the province. And it was really interesting hearing from it. We had there was also presentations there from Starling Control and Sterile Insect Release Program. I think the Starling Control, we've had the Sterling Insect Release people here before present to us. I think it'd be really good if we could ask them to come and present to us too, because that was a really I learned quite a lot about the whole Starling Control thing and how important it is. So maybe George you could invite them to come if they could present to us about what they're all about, because that was a really interesting. And it was great just talking to the farmers about some of their challenges with local government. There was disappointment. There was people from all through the valley were there, from Spellmachine all the way down to the Oliver area. Were all participating in this, and there was a lot of the farmers, of course, are in the rural areas, and they were kind of disappointed that there were no rural directors there, because a lot of the questions and issues they had were RDOS matters, not because there were only municipal directors on the tour. So they were kind of disappointed there wasn't any representation from the RDOS on that tour. So maybe that's something next time we could make a bit of an effort to make sure something's fair.
Okay. Director Bush?
Yeah, so I will ask the person that organizes the Starling Control, but I just wanted to say I would have loved to have gone on a tour, but I had a medical appointment. And I missed it. So.
Director Barkwell?
Yeah, I guess I could add to that. And don't shoot the messenger, but the RDOS directors were conspicuous in their absence to the farmers. But even with those of us who were there and farmers, I think the communication was lacking. We can see that there needs to be more effort, even with us in Summerland, with farmers. Roundtables were discussed as a possible solution where you informally, you don't have an ag committee, as making recommendations and stuff, but just informally hearing the concerns of the farmers, because they're a breed of their own, and they have their own ways of operating, and they're not big on well, they're busy certain times of the year and not so busy other times of the year. Maybe Doug can speak a little bit more about the roundtable solution that came from Spell Machine.
Director Holmes?
Yeah, it's something I'm going to float to our council in Summerland. It's in Spell Machine. They have a farmers roundtable a couple times a year where farmers come up and just basically with their concerns and questions to the local government, and they're answered. They don't, we're kind of told, and in Summerland we have an agriculture advisory committee. But we struggle sometimes getting farmers to want to participate in it, and so we were kind of told yesterday that a lot of farmers they don't want to participate in formal proceedings where there's taking minutes, where there's a formal agenda and all that kind of stuff. They just want to come and bitch. And so what they do in Spell Machine is quite an interesting thing. It seems to work. So it might be even something for us to try here. A farmers roundtable where they just come with their concerns and we listen to them.
Okay. Any other verbal updates from your communities? Items coming out of closed session. We do have one item there to bring forward at this stage. And do we have the wording of that, Ms. Cram? Could I ask you to read that out?
In today's closed session, the board resolved to report out that from the March 20th meeting, that the Board of Directors approved the Technical Advisory Committee recommendations for the South Okanagan Conservation Fund 2025 delivery projects for an amount of up to $487,118.52.
Okay, thank you for that. And adjournment. Anybody prepared to move that? Mover, seconded, thank you. All in favor? Great, any opposed? We are adjourned, and that brings us to Protective Services. And I am going to Director Roberts. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Could I see a motion for the approval of the agenda for Protective Services starting at 11:57? All right, and all in favor? All right, perfect. So now I'd just like to refer in regards to the HRVA to the CAO.
Thank you. So we have the disaster risk planners here. They will provide a regional hazard risk vulnerability analysis update. And the two risk analysis, there's one more missing. They are here with the presentation and answer any questions and issues that you may have.
Sorry, we have a presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, thank you. So thank you so much for giving us some time today. You can go to the next slide. Or I guess I can do that, sorry. We are excited to be working in partnership with Upper Similkameen Indian Band, Lower Similkameen Indian Band, Osoyoos Indian Band, Penticton Indian Band, City of Penticton, District of Sutherland, Town of Oliver, Town of Osoyoos, Village of Karameas, and the RDOS. This project is a community-led and funded and will deliver a unique hazard, risk, and vulnerability analysis report for each community. There we go. Significant hazards exist in this region, and we are seeing an increase in frequency and severity of many events due to climate change. The South Okanagan is also experiencing some of the fastest population growth in the province, resulting in new hazards and increasing pressure on emergency response and preparedness resources. The province of BC has outlined new requirements for local authorities in regards to hazard identification and risk assessment, which are outlined in the Emergency and Disaster Management Act. This project is also guided by the United Nations Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction and the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. The project will identify the hazards that may cause harm in the area, the risk or likelihood a hazard will occur, and the severity of possible impacts, as well as the vulnerability of the people, property, infrastructure, industry, resources, and the environments that will be most impacted. This slide shows a few examples of the 57, oh, I missed one, sorry. Oops. With regards to hazards in the area, wildfires, landslides, and floods are front of mind for many. While these certainly will be included in the project, we will also be examining many other hazards. And on the screen here, you can see that there are a few examples of the other hazards that will be considered, but there are 57 of those hazards that are identified by the province, but also by experience in British Columbia. We will also look to community leaders and residents to identify additional hazards and impacts these may have. Identifying the key objectives of this project is to identify the hazards and evaluate the risk to community, assess community and infrastructure vulnerabilities, identify gaps as well as existing resources, which will inform recommendations to improve resilience for the region, as well as contributing to regional collaboration and relationship building. The overarching goal is to improve community and regional resilience. This project is identified as an action that contributes to the RDOS's board's identified priorities. So we have 3 teams that work on this project. We have the project team, which includes myself, Gilbert Chan, our emergency program coordinator, Jillian Sees, and Ken Konduong, who are our disaster risk planners. They were hired specifically for this project using the grant funds that were achieved by each of the communities that are contributing financially. The goal of the project team is for the planning and facilitation support and report preparation. We have an advisory committee made up of all the emergency program coordinators from around the region, and their role will be to ensure that we haven't missed anything or there are no gaps in the project and the plans for the project. So they'll be giving oversight to the project and guidance. And then we have sub-regional committees that we will be inviting community members and subject matter experts to provide information and data to the project. We have Through discussions with the advisory committee, we broke the regional district into 3 sectors and provided them with unique names. The Singcleep, which includes the city of Penticton, the district of Summerland, Penticton Indian Band, electoral area D, and electoral area I, E, and F. And then there is the Suius area, which includes the town of Oliver, the town of Osoyoos, electoral area A, and electoral area C. And then the Similkameen Valley, which includes Upper Similkameen Indian Band, Lower Similkameen Indian Band, the village of Karamias, and the town of Princeton, electoral area G, H, and B. The reasoning behind this is that there are similarities in risks and exposure in those areas. So we felt that that was the best way to break them up. The project has 5 phases. We've just completed phase 1, in which we have developed a project charter that guides the project. And we started discussions on sub-regional groups and engagement plans. And phase 2, which is just starting now, we are doing data collection and hazard identification, as well as going out to each of the communities that want us to present on this project to make sure that they see where we're at and where we're going with it. Phase 3 will be risk assessment and prioritization, and we'll be gathering and validating data. And then phase 4 is project review, reporting, and implementation planning. And that at that point, we would be taking draft reports to the communities and ensuring there are no gaps in the reporting. And then in phase 5, we will be finalizing the reports and making the information publicly available and for public engagement. And that's our presentation.
Thank you very much for that. I'm looking for questions. I have Director Monteith.
Thank you. Through the chair. At what point are the fire departments involved in this?
Through the chair, the fire departments would be part of the subcommittees. So they will be the subject matter experts for their area.
Director Taylor.
Yeah, 2 questions. First, well, let me start. I think this is great. Terrific. Well done in getting the grant, going for the initiative to get it, et cetera. Where does critical infrastructure fit in this, and who identifies that? And government doesn't always have the same viewpoint as residents, industry.
Right. So critical infrastructure, we will be going to communities that have their own critical infrastructure. They will be giving us information on that. Critical infrastructure will be reaching out to subject matter experts like, say, for example, BC Hydro, TELUS, Rogers, you know, those types of infrastructures that are more global, and asking for their risk assessment and bringing that data in. So it will be dependent on the type of infrastructure. It'll all be looked at, and if there's any gaps, we will reach out and find that information as much as we possibly can.
Well, just, I guess the emergency you get is never what you plan for. At least that's what I'm led to believe. And I wonder, is it necessary to take as long as December of 26? And by just sort of saying, okay, we can identify that these are what our critical infrastructures are. These are the types of events that put them at risk. Is there a way of just sort of considering that, looking at it in a more general way that gives us preparedness for those events, without maybe delving into the detail of what each of them might look like as precisely as the time you've given.
Okay, so maybe I misled to the chair. Maybe I misled you there. It won't be that we will be digging down into it. We will be asking for data and putting that into the report. Yeah. It's not, we're not going to spend, weeks going and looking at these properties or looking at these infrastructures ourselves. We'll just be asking for their assessment of the risk.
And you don't see a way of coming out with assessment any sooner than 26, year-end 26?
Not if we do a full engagement process, which I found to be very successful in my previous work. And the engagement part brought a lot of things to the table that may not be considered by staff because it's not necessarily our experience.
Okay, so hopefully that adds clarity. Any other people? Questions? Well, not seeing any. Thank you very much for your presentation, and it's exciting that we're moving forward in this, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
CEO, is there anything else?
Nothing further.
All right, well, then I'd like to see a motion for adjournment to protect. And all in favor? All right, and it's over to you, Chair.
Thanks, everybody. The only thing left for today is the rural directors or any that want to stay around, a short discussion on STRs and the direction we're going to head with that. So I'll just ask the CAO to make sure the staff are in here shortly and we'll get started on that fairly quickly.
I've just asked staff to come in.
Perfect.